Hi there, this is Ethan, and thanks for tuning in. This is the first development log for my game Confluence, and I wanted to share a few tips that I've picked up along the way that might help some other game devs out there or people working on other types of creative projects. Alright, so my first tip, and this has helped me a lot, is to know what you're working on. So that sounds a little bit strange, but what I'm talking about is sometimes you have a chunk of time blocked out and you're going to work on your project, right? And you sit down and you're not really sure what you're working on. And you just kind of fumble around, and after 4 or 5 hours you look at what you've done and there's not really much there. So what I'm getting at here is that sometimes it's worth it to spend 30 minutes and think about what you want to accomplish when you're working instead of just jumping right in. Alright, the next tip is knowing your troubleshooting tools. So whether you're programming or doing artwork or writing, you're going to run into blocks. You're going to get stuck. And it really is worth it to invest some time into learning how to troubleshoot these problems. So what is troubleshooting in a basic sense? It's when you look at the problem from another perspective. You're used to looking at it from one way when you're working on it, and when you're troubleshooting, you intentionally look at the problem from another perspective. So to give you an example, in this time-lapse painting, you might see that I flip the canvas horizontally from time to time. This is just a way to force me to see things that I might not have otherwise because I got used to looking at the problem in a particular way. There are a lot of ways to do this, and most of them are actually pretty simple. You can ask another person for their opinion. You can take a break and come back later, and just the mood you're in will give you a different perspective. For programming, there are special debugging tools, and I would highly recommend learning those. They will save you a ton of time. So that leads right into my third tip, which is get to know other artists or developers. Like I mentioned before, this can help give you fresh perspectives on your work, and it's also just nice to have some friends. The next tip is pretty simple, and it is pace yourself. 2 hours of working when you're feeling good mentally, you're not hungry, you've had enough sleep, is worth much more than 10 hours of working when you're tired, you're angry, or you can't focus. Sometimes working when you're not well actually takes the project backwards. So my next tip is get a pet goat. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking, that last tip was really great, but those first 4, they were all garbage. So that leads into my last tip, which is don't believe everything you see in internet video tutorials. Take time to test things out for yourself. If you've been spending a lot of time learning, it's good to solidify that knowledge with practical experience. And that's it for the tips I have in this video. If you've been watching the time-lapse painting behind me, I'm just gonna fade in some of the small changes that I made after recording. Some of these changes don't record very well because they involve a lot of zooming in and out and working on small details. So this piece will probably need a little bit more work, but this is generally the process I use for painting backgrounds for my game. If you have any game dev tips that have really helped you, or tips in other creative disciplines, please feel free to leave a comment below, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.